Hi guys, my name is Henry Tenby and welcome to this edition of Model Moment. It's Canadiana time and this is a gorgeous model that's been in my collection for several years. It is a Wardair Space Models Douglas DC-10 expanded foam model. These models were produced in not so much quantity. For Wardair, the DC-10 went into service in 1979-1980, so the models would date from that time frame. Space Models produced a lot of 747 models for Wardair over the decades, certainly between over the 70s and 1980s. And other companies, including Pacific Miniatures, Boeing, produced Wardair 747 models. The 747 models are a lot more common than the DC-10 models. As a matter of fact, this is the only Wardair DC-10 1/100 scale professional display model I have ever seen. The model is essentially mint, and I have finally sold the model. It is a model that will now go to another collector here in Canada for him to enjoy for the next however many years he decides to keep the model. And I hope that he will definitely enjoy it. But I'm going to show you guys what this model is about so that we can maintain this video as a record of the model for future collectors to savor. So yeah, it's got the plug-in wings that were similar to the 747s made by Space Models at the time. No registration. Again, the model is expanded foam, which means it's quite brittle. And these models will damage easily and they don't go together too well if they have to be glued. But I'll give you a round robin tour of the model. It's very, very accurate, of course, beautifully accurate. The Wardair scheme, of course, looks excellent on the DC-10. And what I like about Space Models is that they are just like the wing thicknesses are just perfect. The scribe lines on the tops of the wings are second to none. And really, the wings, the detail of the wings and the shape of the fuselages are on a par with Pac-Man models that were released a decade later than these Space Models. So congratulations to Space Models for producing such a beautiful representation of an airline model a decade before, so-called leader industry for models, Pac-Man was able to produce a model that looks as good as this. Pac-Man models in the 1980s were all mostly one-piece models. They didn't come out with the plug-in wings, I believe, until the latter part of the 1980s. So, of course, Pac-Man models of that era were on a par with this model, but it definitely was a step ahead of the crowd when Space Models came out with this form of manufacturing in the late 1970s, early 1980s. I flew on Wardair 747s. I never had a Wardair DC-10 flight, although I did see them here in Vancouver. I took slides of them in Vancouver and Toronto. And just have a look at the model. It's really beautiful. A model like this values in the range of several $100s. In my opinion, this model is worth at least double what a normal Pac-Man would be worth, in this scale. Like a Northwest Orient or United Airlines Pac-Man, 1/100 scale would probably value in the $300 range. This is worth a lot more than that, more than double in my honest opinion. Just because of supply and demand, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of Northwest and United and KLM and Lufthansa models out there, but there are not dozens, let alone hundreds, of this model out there. This is truly what I classify as almost a once-in-a-lifetime model. As I say, I've been collecting, for many decades, and this is the only one such example I've ever owned. And I wouldn't have sold it if I didn't have something else to reinvest the money in. I'm very interested in Russian models, and I will probably reinvest the proceeds into a Soviet-era model, from the Soviet times. But I'll just show you, I'm holding that upside down, but I'll reconfigure that so you can see the Space Models sticker on the underside of the model. And usually the access point for the stand is all beat to hell. And this model It's nice and clean. The underside of the model hasn't been traumatized and beat to hell. So this model really is a beautiful specimen. Also, with models of that era, you'll start to get yellowing along the decals. That has not happened. It's been kept to a real minimum here. There are a few minor little nicks on this model, but nothing serious, nothing that detract from it. The engines have not broken. To my mind, this model I would classify as being a 9.9 out of 10. You really won't find one better than this, than this example. Look at the tail, look how beautifully detailed it is. And of course the nose is just super accurate. And look at the alignment of the wings, the dihedral there. The wings aren't flapping like a bird or sagging down in a grotesque manner like you see on Westway models from the 1970s. Their large floor models are absolutely gross in my opinion with the flapping bird wings. But yeah, this model is an absolute stunner. And as I say, I just wanted to share it with everybody. Wardair, as most of you will know, was purchased by Pacific Western Airlines, which in turn rebranded itself as Canadian Airlines International when they acquired CP Air. So CP Air, PW, and Wardair all merged into one entity circa 1987, 1988. Max Ward sold the company, I believe, for $500 million, which at the time, $500 million in the late 1980s was a massive amount of money for an airline. Absolutely phenomenal. Yes, it was a well-established going concern, and the company probably was going to suffer competitive hassles with the new merged airline industry that was emerging in Canada in the late 1980s. So Max Ward made a good decision and sold his company and put the $500 million in his jeans. And kudos to him. I'm not sure that the Ward family even have a model like this. I don't think they're really interested in stuff like this. But this really is a real pure Canadiana classic that maybe I'll find another one another day. I definitely have had several 747s, Wardair 1/100 scale space model 747s pass through my hands over the years. They do show up, not always in perfect condition like this, but they're immeasurably more common than the Wardair DC-10. Wardair 707 models are also quite rare. I have seen a couple of 1/60th scale Pacific miniature specimens over the decades. Not in great shape, not in this kind of standout quality. So there you have it. This is a wonderful model. I've enjoyed owning it for the last several years, and I hope you've enjoyed this video, and good luck if you're looking for one of these models. I hope you find one with better success than I've had, because they're beautiful and they would complement anybody's model collection in a very nice manner. Safe travels, bon voyage, and happy collecting.